The trade deadline is always an exciting time of year for Marlins fans, as usually they're sellers. But this time the Marlins did a little bit of both, and it was an exciting deadline for the Marlins as they got some big news in multiple parts of the organization yesterday, and definitely something to look forward to for the future as the Marlins make 2 trades and actually get some big news regarding the roster during a game in which they got to Jacob deGrom yesterday. So August 31st was certainly an exciting day for the Marlins. What's going on, guys? It's Ethan Budowsky. It's been a while since we've talked. Not too much going on with the Marlins on the field recently. Obviously, that Rays series was really kind of a disaster. But they do pick up a big win yesterday in New York where they get to Jacob deGrom in the 6th inning, like when Diaz had the game-tying RBI, and just an exciting time for the an exciting day for the Marlins as they play this game that they didn't want to play. They're playing it on the trade deadline. One of their starters goes out in the middle of the game because he's getting traded, and they still find a way to score 4 in the 6th inning and get a win on like I said, in a game that they weren't supposed to play, that they were mad about playing. So good job by the Marlins to be resilient and fight and come out of there with a victory yesterday in New York. But that certainly, while that was obviously a huge story, that certainly wasn't the news of the day. I guess we start with the news of the day being the acquisition the Marlins made, who they brought in, and the big trade, arguably the biggest bat that was traded in the entire major leagues yesterday, is the Marlins' acquisition of Starling Marte from the Diamondbacks. This is the 3rd consecutive year that the Marlins have made a trade with the Diamondbacks. Obviously, we all know about the Zach Gallen, Jazz Chisholm trade that was made last year. And the year before, Brad Ziegler was traded for Tommy Eveld, who is a relief prospect in the Marlins system now. But this is the biggest one for sure because this is the Marlins doing some buying. That was all selling, but here you see the Marlins getting a big-time Major League talent to try and go out and make the playoffs. I mean, Starling Marte, he's hitting over 300 this year. He's crushing lefties. I think he's hitting something like 349 against lefties. He's got an OPS up over 800. He's got a weighted runs created plus somewhere around 120. I can't remember the exact number right now, and I don't want to waste your time with me just searching stuff up. But whatever the case may be, Starling Marte is a proven Major League hitter. And the Marlins need that right now. They need some life into this offense because as we saw in this Rays series, I mean, there's been nothing. Brian Anderson is struggling. Jesus Aguilar has been down on the DL. VR was up and down. The young guys are kind of struggling. Actually, you could say that the best offensive output that the Marlins have gotten in the past week or so is from Lewis Brinson, who's been really good recently, and he went deep in Sunday's game against the Rays and he's on a 5-game hitting streak right now. So it's certainly been a weird time for the Marlins, but here they sit at the deadline at 500, and they go out and buy a good player, and they get some good, and they don't have to give up too much for that pretty good player. Fish Stripes, the Twitter account, tweeted out a possible trade proposal for Starling Marte because there were rumors starting early in the day that he was the guy the Marlins were looking at, and it included Monte Harrison and Eliezer Hernandez. And the Marlins didn't give up either of those guys. The Marlins end up giving up Caleb Smith, who I have had my own personal struggles with in terms of how the Marlins have handled him on the Major League roster. They give up Humberto Mejia, a guy that we saw in the majors this year, and I'm certainly not happy to see go. I think Mejia had some potential. I think he was a bullpen arm. I think he showed that he was a bullpen arm with the way that he would have, 3 good innings and then kind of blow up after that in some of his starts. But nevertheless, he flashed the ability to pitch at the major league level. And then they give up a player to be named later, and a player to be named later can't be named officially because they're not in the 60-man pool. But I can say that the player that they gave up is not one of the big-time prospects. It's not in the Marlins' top 30. So ultimately, I think the Marlins do a really good job here. I've talked about how the Marlins should have sold Caleb at his highest. This is certainly not his highest point of value. His highest point of value was probably last year or maybe even in 2018. And I have always been on the bandwagon of selling on Caleb because I don't think he fits into the Marlins' plans in the rotation in the future. And I don't think he has a ton of value at the end of the day. I think he was just kind of eventually going to regress to the mean, and he kind of did. Nevertheless, the Marlins, I think they did a really good job here. Like, even, they could have gone out and gotten a prospect, and maybe it could have been Caleb instead of Gallen in the in the Jazz trade last year. But when you go out and you flip Caleb for and two other guys for Starling Marte, I mean, that's a really good move for the Marlins. That's some really good value for the Marlins. Clearly, they didn't believe that Caleb or Mejia fit into the rotation plans of the future, and I can't blame them. And I have said now for a couple of weeks that with the way the Marlins have shown a prowess to develop pitching so far at the major league level, with guys like Pablo, the way Sandy has emerged, we've seen Sixto, and then you've got Eddie Cabrera and Neidert, and Eliezer has been really good so far. You see the way that the Marlins are capable of developing pitchers. I am confident in whoever. Trevor Rogers is another guy who was, again, good yesterday. I'm confident with whoever the Marlins feel is their best five. Whoever they feel is the five of the future. Whoever they pick to be the five going forward, I'm going to feel confident in that. So if they feel that Caleb Smith isn't part of that, if they feel that Humberto Mejia isn't part of that, maybe they feel that Eliezer Hernandez isn't part of that, and we see him move in the summer if Eddie Cabrera makes an appearance sometime this year in the offseason, not the summer. I always say summer to mean offseason, but the offseason. If the Marlins, feel that those guys are expandable, then so be it. Then, I'm okay with that. I respect that, and I'm confident in their ability to make a decision about who the best five is. So the Marlins move on from Caleb Smith, they move on from Humberto Mejia, and they get a good player in Starling Marte. I mean, he won a Gold Glove in left field. He plays really good defense in center field. That's probably where he slots into. And clearly the Marlins haven't found a guy that they feel very confident in center field to produce offensively. But nevertheless, that's a really good player that you're bringing in there, and it certainly brings life to this offense. I mean, he's hitting over 300 this year. He'll be the Marlins' best hitter from the second that he's in the lineup. So the other move the Marlins make, and this is the one that makes a lot of sense, and it goes into another move, is the Marlins move on from Jonathan Villar. And Craig Mish said that the Marlins just never really felt that Villar bought into what they were doing. And I think you could kind of see that on the field at times. And he was a little reckless in his play, and the Marlins weren't a huge fan of that. And so the Marlins move on from Villar. And the reason that they do move on from Villar is because apparently, and not apparently anymore actually, the Marlins are getting Isan Diaz back. And he's been cleared by the MLB and the Major League Baseball Players Association to return to the Marlins. We don't know when. He's been working out at the Jupiter training site with the team. We don't know how long for, but he opted out after the whole situation in Philadelphia, and now with the team ready to make a playoff run, he's back in. So that's a big addition to the Marlins, because if Isan can come in and hit the way that we saw him hitting in AAA, or even half of that, that'll be a huge addition to the Marlins lineup, and it's a huge vote of confidence from the Marlins for Isan Diaz that they were willing to move on from a guy that had 4 WAR last year in favor of Isan, because they knew that Isan was coming back. That should tell Marlins fans a lot about how this organization feels about Isan Diaz. So hopefully Isan gets rolling. But at the end of the day, VR is a very good baseball player. There's no doubt about that. He's got a ton of talent, and I wish VR the best in Toronto, and I hope that he helps them, get to the playoffs, because that's an exciting team. But he just wasn't a fit here. And I think that was clear on the field, and I think it was clear kind of off the field too. So VR was taken out after making a nice little catch out in right center that actually might have saved the game for the Marlins. And he was removed from the game and was on hug watch right there. So he was moved to Toronto. And again, he was moved for a player to be named later, and I'm going to copy Joe Frisaro here. It's Griffin Cota, the son of former Marlin, Mr. Marlin, Jeff Conine, is believed to be the player to be named later from the Blue Jays organization. Again, Griffin Conine is not in the Blue Jays 60-man player pool, so the move cannot be officially announced until the offseason. But that is, by all accounts and reports, who will be the player to be named later when it happens in the offseason. So that's a good acquisition for the Marlins because he brings a lot of power to the system. He struck out a ton last year, but he had an OPS up over 900, around 950, and he hits for big-time power. So that's something that the Marlins need, and it just adds to this plethora of outfield prospects that the Marlins have in their system right now. He'll certainly slot into the top 30 if that is the guy that, is coming over, which we all believe it is by all reports. So the Marlins move on from Jonathan Villar. They acquire Starling Marte, Starling the Marlin. We got to make that rhyme better. And I think they do a really, really good job of buying and selling. So they buy to try and make this playoff push, and also Starling Marte has an option, and it looks like, the Marlins are 100% going to pick that up next year, so he'll be around for a year and a half now, and he's going to help them try and make this playoff push here. And you do a little selling and add some power to the system, and you get Isan Diaz back. So overall, really good day for the Marlins. They have this plan to add power to the system, and they keep on executing it. And they're using their plethora of starting pitching, which teams are huge fans of, to go out and get fill the needs that they need. They did it with Lewin Diaz. They did it with Jesus Sanchez. And that's just what the Marlins are doing right now, and it's a very, very good strategy to go forward with this system. So I think overall it was a really great day for the Marlins, and we'll have to see how Starling Marte slots in. But the Marlins got better yesterday, and that is undeniable.